Hello, everybody. Oh, it's on. I hear myself. I'm the loudest person in the room all the time, so I have to check that, right? All right, so we're going to talk about proactive versus reactive economic development today. This coming at you from the girl that was the worst algebra student on the planet. I have landed in a career that deals, I believe, in an algebraic equation. So let me give you an example. If we're going to work with a retail project, let's say it's a Walgreens, and we have the city of Detroit, there are approximately 5 different siding characteristics for a retailer. We're looking at incomes, rooftops, we're looking at whether or not we've got curb cuts or access, visibility, and most importantly, if there's a CVS across the street, right? And if we can hit those 5 above what we understand to be an area of success, looking at previous Walgreens locations, then we can assume that any one of those 40 that are above those indicators would be successful in any one of the 40 locations that have been chosen. When was the last time you guys got a 5-question RFI? Right? You don't. You don't, because most of them are at least 75 questions. And the pain in the butt in that is that there are 75 questions. But really what is comprised of is all of this prioritization, critical factors, right? Going into how that company is going to optimize where it goes. We are creating that algebraic equation every day when we work with a site selection client. And by the way, I've never had one that's exactly the same all the time I've done it. Our job is to create it. We create the algebraic equation. Your job is to anticipate the answer. So, what does this mean? What this means is that if you are proactive and you really think through your assets and your deficiencies and how they align to your local market, what's happening with your existing industries, the tax environment, your housing capabilities, your labor availability, what you can do to train, permitting allowances, all of the things that comprise the individual community that you have. And you align that back to your understanding of clusters and what you believe works well to the state. You're in a position to start developing a business case to strategically align in a way that you're no longer waiting for a project to come at you. You are proactively pursuing projects that make sense. Now, don't get me wrong, if we send you an RFI, my guess is you like us, we feel like you like us, and we like you, right? But you're not necessarily going to be successful if you are waiting for us. Because we're developing a business case, we want to be in a position where we can match to yours. Now, I know you can't read this chart unless you have the eyes like mine that are aged. You might be able to then, right? What I want you to notice in this chart, though, is a prioritization, okay? If there's one thing you take from the girl that works a lot with infrastructure, it's this. Infrastructure is really stinking expensive. You cannot prioritize every site that is presented to you across all of the counties or the region that you represent. I would say that 4 quarters is better than 100 pennies. You need to be able to take the assets that you have and you need to align those to the very best at the top that really align back to those assets that you believe make the most sense to be able to draw in industries that will fit well to your region. When you can do that, you need to right size effectively to your community. How many of you are in smaller communities, let's say under 50,000 people in this room? I bet a lot of you would be really, really, really happy if you got a 100-person employer, right? Not everybody needs to pursue a mega project. Not everybody makes sense to have a data center. Some of you have different goals based upon what is existing current to your community. So right sizing to carefully determine what makes sense for impact is something that allows you to be very proactive. It also ensures then that your planning efforts, the way that you reserve land, the way that you think about your infrastructure build, all of that aligns effectively to the types of projects that will be most attracted to landing at the local level. Labor. It's always going to be important, right? And it's still important. But where I think we sometimes fall down at the local level is there is an assumption that the MZ Burning Glass sort of database approach or Census Bureau information is going to be the be-all and end-all to the labor continuum. We run into many, many, many circumstances where there are communities and counties where there are underemployed people. where you perhaps have people who are willing, because of the center of where it is located, to drive further than they would otherwise. When we talk to folks in HR, they might give a much more rosy outlook as to the quality or the capabilities of that labor, specialized skill sets, a predominance of a segment that has been there for years and promoted well. If you were to complete qualitative labor analyses that can be basically benchmarked and work with the census level type of information that we're able to derive, you help to develop a business case not only for us, but for yourselves. You're able to ascertain where you got those advantages, and then you can build from them. You build your cooperation with the technical colleges, with community colleges, the high schools. You start to chip away at what you believe makes the most sense as far as how to handle the community development aspects of that labor or what you're trying to attract. And that leads to better conversations, better capital improvements planning, and a better community overall. The quality of place type of stuff that you're looking to try to build. It also helps you with when you think about incentives. Are you incenting correctly? Some forms of labor assessment will pull out that there is a need to perhaps provide some sort of job training grants. Maybe those weren't developed previously. So doing these kinds of activities allows you to set the stage very effectively. Logistical advantages are more than just simply logistics. However, it shocks me at times. We'll go into an area where there might be a very good raw resource sort of base in that state. Sometimes it's something such as mine type materials, sometimes it's agricultural type base, and they don't even necessarily realize that it is the advantage that it is. You should understand what is flowing through, to, around, and into your communities, so that that way you're able to position in a way that says these industries make a lot of sense to our community, because they will offer an automatic business case to those that are seeking to select a site. Further, for those of you that are not involved in retention expansion work, that is the most important thing you'll ever do to support your efforts. It's more important than making friends with us. It's more important than going to trade shows. It is the most important thing you do. And I'm going to give you an example as to why. Little Norfolk, Nebraska. Any Nebraskans in here today? Yes! Woo! Go Big Red. And they're good this year, by the way. 12,000 people, Norfolk, Nebraska. They had a Nucor steel operation in that community. Economic development director was very, very good. She was very regular with retention expansion visits. And she walked into Nucor, sat down with the plant manager, and she said, "Hey, Mr. Plant Manager, if an industry were to co-locate that would help your industry to be able to succeed and grow and do the things you need to do here, who would they be? Where would they be? What do they do?" And he looks at her and he says, "Well, we really need a plastics piping manufacturer." She said, "Oh, okay." And she said, "Do you know who?" And he said, "Well, yeah, we'd like to try to attract OCT Pipe. They're in Texas." She said, "Well, that sounds like that might be a good opportunity, right?" So they got the governor, the director of commerce, herself, and the plant manager on a plane. And within about 6 months, there was an announcement of about 200 jobs in a town of 12,000. Never underestimate the ability to market up and down line from your existing industries. They have a reason to exist in the region. And that is all part of understanding logistically the advantages that you have back home. I am a fan of diligence, as is every person in this room on the Site Selectors Guild. We talk a lot about it. We spend a lot of energy trying to promote sites and site availability and site readiness. I am also a very, very big fan of the master planning of those sites. And one of the reasons is here, and you can see it in the example. In a sense, if we understand how a site actually optimizes, not just that it has shovel-ready infrastructure, but our easements, access, encumbrances, rail, our ability, in a sense, to be able to flex that site to optimize our particular end user on the property. It may not have to be perfect, and we still have the ability to effectively see it as an opportunity. And hopefully this is some good news for some of you that are sweating a bit trying to figure out how you get them built out to an absolutely perfect position. As somebody who works with a bunch of engineers that design for facility and users, I'm telling you, none of your sites are going to be perfect. And there's going to be something that's going to have to be corrected. But the more we understand about how to flexibly function within a tract, the better we're going to do. The top portion of the screen is a master plan that was done for a client, for which we felt we had encapsulated the targets, generalized size of facilities that would have interest in this market, looking at data in a proactive way. And when we completed that master plan, within about 2 weeks, they ended up with a prospect. Within about 4 hours, the prospect is effectively noted on the bottom portion of the screen in their exact pad site placement in the footprint that they had provided. This helps to eliminate risk, and it helps communities that are trying to, again, proactively work with tracts of ground to be able to show exactly how it can happen efficiently and to the size necessary for that client. So finally, a really good example of the application of that master planning concept. We had the opportunity to come into Michigan some years back here, not too many, about 3. And we worked with Marshall-Calhoun County to position their tract in a master plan perspective. This is one of the prized mega sites in the state of Michigan. And what we knew was that there was a really massive water wastewater deficiency to the site, but if we could understand what potentially could happen with this property, it would be possible to think through the capital improvements alignment, understand how that routing would work to get it to the site, and allow them to start chipping away at trying to get it to a marketable position to attract an end user. And what do you know? They just did that. That major water wastewater deficiency becomes a lot less when you start talking billions on a project investment to a region. And without the ability to explain it, it may not have ever happened for them. So what I would like to leave you with is that each of you are doing things that matter an awful lot to your communities at the local level every day. Just because some things are super popular at the time doesn't necessarily mean it's the right industry fit for your town. And what I would like to encourage you to do is go back and really think about proactively what makes the most sense so that you can put your efforts toward things that will matter well into the future. Market-based product or project opportunities will provide the most stable return at the local level. Know your business case, make it your song. Thank you.